welcome to Review of Raw. It's John Pollock and Wai Ting. And first off, Wai, I want us to offer our best to a great series and the Texas Rangers, who finished first. We are not here to gloat.
What are you talking about?
We are not here to mock this first-place team getting swept by our Toronto Blue Jays.
Oh, okay.
But I want to just say a great series to this team. I mean, who were at the epitome of sportsmanship all year long when it came to the Toronto Blue Jays, who applauded the antics of Jose Bautista a year ago. So we are not going to gloat on this show about this domination, this destruction.
I almost didn't even watch. I mean, I don't think it's that big of a deal.
All right. Well, are we ready to proceed with the show?
Sure.
All right. Wait, it stopped being fun after a certain amount of time. I mean, this was almost too easy.
This is amazing.
Team.
What an amazing game.
Oh my God, was there a border issue? Because the Texas Rangers didn't show up to Toronto, did they? Oh my God, and they left a foul odor in their wake as they go right back to where they were last year.
Yeah.
Choking. Mm-hmm. What a game, Mr. Ting.
Yeah, it was amazing.
On Sunday night.
Oh my God.
The Jays showed no mercy.
And, yeah, I mean, yes.
Do you want to know the best part of how this game ended? Do you remember this big game-winning play? Is this one of those?
I do, of course.
One of those plays that you're going to remember for years and years?
Absolutely. And I think you have an interesting story to tell me.
So we are watching No Mercy, myself and Jason Agnew on Sunday, and we got the picture-in-picture going all night long. No Mercy ends, and then Jay just flips it, so we've got the game on now. Now we've got sound, and we're watching the game. So we're getting into the 10th inning. All night long, the TSN newsroom is like 4 or 5 seconds ahead of us. So when we heard cheers, we knew something great was about to happen.
Yeah.
So for the 10th, we wanted to eliminate the noise. So we closed the door, and then Jay goes to me, "Hey, wasn't Talking Smack on right after No Mercy?" And I said, "Yes, it was." He's like, "Well, we should probably watch that before the law." I was like, "Yeah, we could." He's like, "Oh, well, let me PVR it so we can finish the game." So he hits the guide in the 10th inning and gets locked on this page. The game is gone. Jay is getting mad. He's saying, "Why can't I get back to the game? What's going on with this system here? This is the worst timing." And with that, the newsroom erupts as we are stuck on the guide as Russell Martin gets Josh Donaldson home.
What cable company were you with?
It was a bell box, I think.
Oh no.
Yeah. So clearly they were at work here to mess with us. So we actually didn't get to see the play, though they replayed it 10,000 times.
Yeah.
But of the whole night, we're following this game, and then the key play, we're locked, trying to get Talking Smack so that we can watch it afterwards, which was not probably on par with that play. Are you ready to chat about Raw?
Yeah.
Okay. From Oakland, California, on Monday night, we started things with Sasha Banks coming out, and she stated that she felt like she was on top of the world, mentioning how she would watch Raw at home with her mother on television. No way a mother and daughter are watching Raw today, the entire episode. There's no way that kind of bonding is going on between mothers and daughters today.
Not a whole 3 hours, that's
So
for sure.
the future Sasha Banks has probably been scared off by the 3-hour era. She mentions Eddie Guerrero would have been his birthday on Sunday and wishes him a happy birthday and wanted to be just like him, Trish, and Lita, and wants the rematch with Charlotte to be a Hell in a Cell match, and she is interrupted by Charlotte. And then Rusev and Lana come out before Charlotte can even get into the ring. And Rusev states that no one care about your stupid woman revolution, or them main eventing Raw the prior week. Charlotte asks who the hell Rusev thinks he is. She agrees to the Hell in a Cell match with Sasha, and then Rusev steals the mic back, calls Charlotte a black swan because she was in this black robe, and then Sasha throws down the mic. Lana calls them lost women who whine like little girls, and it led to Sasha knocking Lana down, and Rusev got sent to the floor, and then Roman came to the rescue as well as Rusev backed off. And somehow out of this, we got Charlotte aligned with Rusev, even though she was a babyface in this segment, aligning herself with Sasha. It was the power of these two women who were not going to listen to any gender demeaning by Rusev and his antiquated views.
Well, they're selling a bigger story here than simply Sasha versus Charlotte. They were trying to sell the fact that this was women being in Hell in a Cell for the first time, and Rusev being here, kind of playing the foil to women.
Why was Rusev unhappy? It's not like his match isn't a cell match any longer because of this.
He's just somebody put out there to represent older values.
He was playing a sexist on this show.
And I actually loved that Lana was there with him to be a female voice for the outdated societal values of women.
And calling Charlotte and Sasha lost.
Yeah.
That was kind of funny.
And it gave a chance for the actual, female wrestlers to shine against her. So I thought it definitely babyface Charlotte for a bit, but I didn't think it did enough to take away from the feud. And the bigger selling point about this whole match is the fact that you have women being in Hell in a Cell at all, rather than, just a feud between these two.
More on Hell in a Cell to come, as there will be on October the 30th. They promoted Paul Heyman will be addressing Bill Goldberg's interview from ESPN last week with Jonathan Coachman. The New Day comes out, and they talk about notable people from the Bay Area, including the Bash Brothers, Jose Canseco and Mark McGuire, who got boos here from this Oakland crowd. The Splash Brothers, Klay Thompson and Stephen Curry, and Danny Tanner and Uncle Jesse. Mm-hmm. All tandems you think of from the Bay Area.
Yep.
They describe Cesaro and Sheamus, including Big E calling Cesaro thick AF. And they boo Sheamus. Kofi had a sign signaling hot garbage to describe Sheamus, and they confirmed that they will be getting a future tag title shot. Not exactly sure why.
Didn't they say?
They beat a job team.
I mean, they got a tag team shot out of the tournament.
Oh, that was the eventual title shot. Mm-hmm. Right. I've already eliminated the stakes of what we had a month of TV built around. Kofi Kingston took on Cesaro. This was a preview way. Sheamus was out in the corner, but he was not watching the match because instead he was on Facebook Live, presumably interacting with fans.
I mean, I believe it.
And Michael Cole sent us to go watch this.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Why not?
I thought it was a funny way for them to show dissent, and I think a clever way to promote their social media that, wasn't too intrusive. In fact, it played into the storyline.
Kingston hit a reverse cross after the break, boom drop. Cesaro then ducked a Trouble in Paradise. And now Sheamus, he's now facing the action and eating popcorn while still on Facebook Live, which it must have been something great to be watching alongside as this man is eating popcorn. Sheamus shoves Woods on the floor, and this came as Kofi was setting up for a springboard and then spilt down onto the canvas. And from the distraction, Cesaro gets rolled up by Kofi Kingston. Cesaro looked like a fool here after this guy had just laid himself out with this springboard, but he was so concerned with what was happening on the floor, and Kofi gets the victory.
Yeah, I mean, it was done to tell a story, right?
I guess
that these two can't work together.
Well, to me, it just showed that Cesaro he couldn't even capitalize on this guy's mistake.
I mean, everybody gets distracted when you're in a wrestling match.
Well, in this company, it's a real problem. ADD is a big, big issue. Each and every week, it's your chance to win a t-shirt from ProWrestlingTees.com. Simply answer the trivia question and tweet @LawRadio for your chance to win each and every Thursday. We also want to let you know about Pro Wrestling Crate by Pro Wrestling Tees. Each month, Pro Wrestling Crate sends you a mystery box full of exclusively designed shirts, autographs, collectibles, and more. Get 20% off your first month by using coupon code LIVEAUDIO. Subscribe today at ProWrestlingCrate.com. They plugged the tag match for later, the mixed tag with Reigns, Sasha against Rusev and Charlotte, and then we got highlights of the Goldberg interview where he is asked if he would ever do another match. And he says he does not owe Lesnar a rematch. He beat him once, but then goes on to say that would be the match if he did come back. So doesn't owe him a rematch, beat him, but yeah, I'd do it at that one again.
I don't know if they did a bunch of editing here, but his speech seemed oddly inconsistent.
All this told me is that on March 14th, 2004, when they knew both guys were leaving, and they opted, well, screw it, the babyface will go over, made the wrong decision that day. This would have been much better to have the opposite, where Goldberg can be coming back to avenge that loss. But instead it is going to be Lesnar hunting for this loss on his record. Bayley took on Cami Fields. And Bayley got a big reaction being introduced from San Jose, which is an hour away from where they were on Monday night. Bayley hit a hip toss, sliding D, and then it got a little awkward here. We saw this reverse cross off the turnbuckle into an armbar that Bayley didn't quite get. Then she overshot Cami Fields with the sunset flip out of the corner, and then we just went right to the belly to Bayley for the win in 2:20. The major focus was Dana Brooke afterwards, attacking Bayley at the entranceway, and did get some heat for this attack, laying out Bayley.
Yeah. Not really the best outing for Bayley in ring, but outside of the fumbles in the match, I thought there's nothing wrong with the booking here. Just pretty simple, old school, traditional booking.
Yep. Chris Jericho is on the phone in the back, and R-Truth walks by, and he's overhearing Jericho, presumably on the phone with his agent, going through all his accolades and say, "I want that payday." And R-Truth pulls out a payday chocolate bar, thinking that's what Jericho meant. And R-Truth leaves with Jericho saying, "I didn't say I didn't want it, stupid idiot." This, I thought, was one of the better product placement segments they've done.
If you're comparing to the Natalia Subway
That is what I'm comparing it to. That's what comes to mind.
Yeah, why not? I wish we had payday regularly in Canada.
Well, it's I don't ever see paydays up here.
Yeah, we don't have them.
Nope, we're bankrupt here. Tony Nese and Drew Gulak took on Lince Dorado and the newest member of the Cruiserweight division, Sin Cara.
Yeah.
So this is established that the Cruiserweight division is open to people on the roster. There was a quick head scissors by Dorado to Gulak, and then a back body drop sent Sin Cara on top of Nese. They got the advantage on Dorado. Then Sin Cara was in, hit a quebrada to both, a deadlift slam to Gulak, and then Nese made the save. There was a suicide dive to Nese on the floor by Sin Cara, and then a springboard Hurricane Rana by Dorado to Gulak, and won with the shooting star press, 3 minutes and 15 seconds. I thought Dorado looked really good in this match.
Yeah, I thought the crowd in general were a little bit hotter than usual for a Cruiserweight match here. Maybe it was just simply the crowd and the area that they're in, but I have a feeling that maybe the colorful mass automatically give Dorado and Sin Cara a bit more of an appeal to a casual audience. I like the team together. They mentioned that these two teamed together in the past, which is true. And, I'm glad that they gave Dorado the win instead of Sin Cara because the guy was making his debut, and I think he needed it. And, guys like Gulak and Nese, they're really good, but it seems like they're just here to kind of lose.
Mick Foley is backstage in his new flannel suit. And his hair is combed. He's wearing a shirt and tie. And
I think the suit is great.
Yeah?
You don't?
I don't know.
It works for him.
I guess, yes.
Yeah.
Stephanie wants to join him for his Hell in a Cell address, which he's going to make into the ring, and we come back after the break. They're both in the ring, and Stephanie was not watching the Blue Jays game on Sunday night. She was watching No Mercy. Thought it was a great show. But says Hell in a Cell is going to blow it away. Got the Oakland cheap pop, and then she hands it over to Foley, who says that the women deserve to make history and are going to have their Hell in a Cell match on October the 30th. As will Roman Reigns and Rusev, and Kevin Owens versus Seth Rollins. Sure, that's going to be a Hell in a Cell match too. So we have 3 cell matches.
I think that's a little too much.
I have always felt 2 is too many on these shows.
Yeah, kind of waters down the gimmick.
This will be, because of the time that they're going to have to allot to these matches, this will probably be half the matches will be in cells on that pay-per-view. Kevin Owens interrupts alongside Chris Jericho, and Owens says it's the stupidest decision Foley has made yet. He doesn't want to be in a cell match because he wants to have a long career and not become a washed-up GM like Foley. He wants to work safe. And Jericho says that Foley is acting like a genie granting wishes. They want to get a jet with their names on it. And he says, for putting Owens in this match, you just made the list. And this got a very big reaction from the crowd. This thing is, I love every time he teases it and milks it. And the crowd reacts every single time. And it's the second time Mick Foley is on this list. Stephanie says that Jericho needs to show Foley respect and doesn't care about being put on any list. And says that she saw no mercy and thought Raw could have an even better triple threat match, and announces tonight's main event between Jericho and Seth Rollins will have added stakes because if Jericho wins, he will be placed into the Hell in a Cell match along with Rollins and Kevin Owens. And Owens looked very worried here at the announcement that Chris Jericho could be added to the match.
Yeah, I thought a strong segment. I thought Jericho yet again stole the segment just by being very entertaining, and he and Owens, I think, fantastic together. I think 3 cell matches is a little bit too much. And no real mention of which match will main event.
I think they're going to put the women on last.
Yeah.
In Boston? I think you can do it, and I don't think it's a big deal to which match goes on last.
Yeah, I mean, if it was only the women and Reigns and Rusev, I would definitely put the women on last.
Reigns and Rusev will probably start the show.
Sure.
One of these cell matches is going to start the show. This Friday, Review Away returns as Wai Ting and I will review In Your House Mind Games from September of 1996, headlined by Shawn Michaels and Mankind. Plus, Mark Henry makes his WWF debut, and some ECW talent appears on the show from Philadelphia. It's Review Away this Friday at liveaudiowrestling.com. Seth Rollins is interviewed backstage. Were you wondering all these weeks, Wai, who was going to be Raw was going to scoop from SmackDown after SmackDown landed Jack Swagger? Got our answer on Monday night. Charlie Caruso has come to Raw.
She's probably more valuable.
She is more valuable than Jack Swagger. And Rollins says he is going to crush Stephanie's plan of turning Hell in a Cell into an episode of Table for Three.
Nice. You like that one?
I hate any ones where they incorporate the names of the shows. They're just painful. Says it will be just him and Owens at the pay-per-view, and Stephanie's plans will be obsolete, which led to a delete chant you could hear in the background. And says if Jericho will be Owens' friend or will he be his opponent if he gets added to the match? This question that he is asking after just stating the fact that that is not going to be an option, but then throwing out the hypothetical. The biggest news there, Charlie Caruso is now on Raw. Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel met on the pre-show, and Axel said he's always believed in Bo, and no team can outlast the outcast, and they agreed to team together. Enzo and Cass come out as their opponents, and Enzo's in the ring, and he's getting all set to do his big promo when they get jumped by Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows. And this led to the boot of doom to Enzo. They got on top of Cass with strikes and then hit him with the Magic Killer.
Yeah, they're trying to convey the Gallows and Anderson's new gimmick of ending fun and games, putting an end to fun and games. And, yeah, I guess this was effective.
It'd be amazing if they thought of this 3 months ago with these two.
It was because I think they got so overboard with the playing around that they can justify doing a gimmick like this, I guess.
Well, this was a fine feud for Cass and Enzo. Keeps them busy. It's better than the Shining Stars.
Yeah, it's okay.
I mean, Enzo and Cass have kind of just been on the show of late. I mean, they're good personalities to have, but they really haven't had much going on for quite a while, ever since Cass was in that four-way match.
Yeah.
After the break, Axel and Dallas are still in the ring, and Axel asks are we on some episode of Swerved here? We were promised a match tonight. And he's here to prove that he still believes in Bo and wants some opponents. Do you think it's vice versa and Bo believes in Axel? Because Bo's had much more television time than Curtis Axel since the draft.
Bo believes in Axel? What do you mean?
Well, Axel said, I'm here to prove that I believe in Bo.
Oh, okay.
It's like, I don't know if it's being reciprocated. Sami Zayn came out, and he is joined by Neville. You know what my takeaway from this was?
What's that?
Because he asked Foley to get some opponents that are around. They did not book Sami Zayn and Neville for anything on this show. They're just standing around, in this show.
In kayfabe, yeah.
They had nothing happening on this show unless Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows jumped the original opponents. So Curtis Axel and Bo took on Sami Zayn and Neville. This was a quick match. Exploder suplex to Axel in the corner, haluva kick, and then Neville hit the red arrow, and they won in 2:23. And Bo left with his sign without Curtis Axel.
Oh, the end of that team, maybe.
Oh, or a feud.
I'm guessing they're trying to treat Zayn and Neville as a serious tag team coming out of this. I kind of see it as Neville's last chance to get over on the main roster before being put into the Cruiserweights, which is where I think he'll ultimately end up.
You can check out The Law's YouTube channel at youtube.com/liveaudiowrestling. Subscribe for all of your free videos, including Ask Away, interviews, and much more. Then we had Charlotte in the back stretching, and Lana walked in, stating that Charlotte had no right to put her hands on Lana earlier. Charlotte tells her that she is physically superior and warns Lana, and that Rusev is her partner for life, and to stay out of my husband's way, or you will have severe consequences. Titus O'Neil was back. There were some dead segments here, all in a row, to take on R-Truth. This was set up on Facebook when Goldust and R-Truth were arguing with the Shining Stars when Titus walked in, and you won't believe why he was upset at R-Truth. It was because R-Truth managed to get the payday endorsement deal. Mm-hmm. And Titus wanted it for his brand, and he calls R-Truth a thief. We're feuding over the chocolate bar, over the payday product placement.
An ad campaign.
They also flat out admitted that what you saw earlier was a blatant ad.
Okay. Yeah. I guess my question is why would they choose R-Truth of all people?
That would be a great question for the payday executives.
I guess he's kind of
maybe they wanted
kooky.
Someone honest, and they came to R-Truth.
Mm-hmm.
Truth takes him down and then lands a drop kick. Titus landed a big boot. He hit a pair of backbreakers, but then Goldust started rallying R-Truth, and he stomped on the steps. And this must have hypnotized Titus because he just stared at Goldust, and while distracted, got rolled up by R-Truth, and R-Truth pinned Titus O'Neil in 2 minutes and 9 seconds, getting his first singles victory on Raw since June.
Oh, wow. So I guess the joke with Titus is his whole thing is hashtag make it a win, but he
can't win.
Always
loses.
He's
the Texas Rangers of the Raw brand.
Oh, ouch.
Can't get a win when it counts.
Mm-hmm. He had a little thing on .com last week where he had held a press conference that I thought, like a press conference to a media roster of one, which I thought was really funny. So I think they're slowly refining his gimmick and showing a bit more each week.
Will Charlie Caruso be at the press conference this week?
He should do a press conference every week. Yeah.
Then we had a segment that I don't know what this was. This was two guys having to overcome some terrible script writing. We had T.J. Perkins approaching Brian Kendrick in the locker room. How does the video game guy come in and have a heart-to-heart with a guy? Well, the video game guy came in and said, hey, let's hit the pause button. Let's hit the pause button. A line that has never been used in recorded history before Monday's Raw. These are the people writing for T.J. Perkins. He then called Brian Kendrick a greasy Jack Sparrow and says he knows Kendrick isn't a bad guy. And I know that you're not just the Inspector Gadget of cheap tricks.
It sounds so much lamer when you're repeating it.
Oh, it sounded lame in real time for me, Way. He says Kendrick doesn't need the cheap shots in his matches, and I would have given you a title shot because of who you were to begin with. And then he tells Brian that, I remember when you used to drive me around, and you once bought me a new N64 when mine broke, which is a real friendship. I would never buy another friend an N64 if it broke.
A lot of money.
That's a lot of money. Yeah. And he laughs, and Brian does remember buying that. And they shake hands. And then he goes to attack Perkins, and Perkins just drops him with a forearm as they unpaused their friendship. And we got back to the real world. Boy, Wai.
Yeah. Well, it does sound incredibly lame, especially when you're repeating it like that. But this was all done to get the guy over to his segment of the audience. I mean, coming out of this, I'm grateful that they at least dedicated this amount of time to telling the story of these two guys, which is more than we've had in the past month. We really had nothing outside of those interviews from the Cruiserweight Classic, and nothing at all from the characters themselves mentioning that they had this prior history with one another. So they managed to establish that in this segment, and I think it's sorely needed for a guy like Perkins and all the Cruiserweights, to be honest. They've had no voice up until this point. They've had no chance to develop their rapport with the audience. So in a speaking role, on a Raw show, I thought Perkins actually did well. He held his own in a scripted role backstage, and they managed to make him look strong, anticipating the cheap shot from Kendrick. So I think the scripting is bad, but it's these two guys performing on Raw, and this is the Raw style.
Well, dare I press the pause button? I agree with everything that you've said. And they had a story, and where does Greasy Jack Sparrow, talk about just forcing some stupid line in here. And it's a credit to these two, because this is what so many of these guys have to do. You could just have a normal conversation with this story. It's not a very hard story to grasp. A guy's mentor, and now he's trying to cling to his job and go for his pupil's title. Simple enough. And we've got to force all this crap in here, these stupid jokes, Inspector Gadget, Jack Sparrow.
I'll tell you what.
It had nothing to do with the story. It's just, how do we force in a joke?
I mean, but
awful
remember how the show is made. I mean, it's made by people who used to write sitcoms. And this stuff might work really well in a sitcom environment. It might work really well, I don't know, on Dawson's Creek. I'd never watched that show, but it seems like something that maybe they would say.
Even
on
Dawson
like
Creek, James Vanderbeek's character was never this wordy. Tune in Sunday night at midnight Eastern for The Law live audio wrestling, as Jason Agnew and Dan the Mouth Lavransky will be reviewing all of the week's news from professional wrestling. Plus, Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer newsletter will be joining us. It's The Law, Sunday night at midnight Eastern on TSN Radio. The Oakland Raiders are in the front row. I only mention this because Graves got a nice little dig in saying they aren't even watching Monday Night Football tonight. Take that, NFL.
Nice.
Braun Strowman took on Steven and Clay, the Splash Brothers. Mm-hmm. This is our second Splash Brothers reference of the night. And they got interviewed by Byron Saxton. This was a black and white brothers team.
Sure.
And they grew up in Oakland, and they're going to go out and make a splash. And they are diving into the deep end and taking Braun with them, to which Saxton said, well, we'll have life preservers after the match. What did you think of the Splash Brothers?
I thought they had great looks for jobbers. I mean, I'm sure they're quite the team on the local indie scene. But here, they picked decent guys.
I believe it was Steven Splash who was the one wearing the Zubaz pants.
Right.
Braun, the highlight of this match was Braun trying to hit a double drop kick. Mm-hmm. Trying.
Yeah. Michael Cole went nuts for it.
Oh, boy. He treated this like Mauro Ranallo calling Ushigoroshi. There was a power slam to Clay, and then he took Steven, and it was the return of the reverse choke slam on top of Steven, and the double pin in 57 seconds, as Cole called them, the Splat Brothers.
Can you pin a guy like that? Like with somebody else facing on top of him?
Well, it's a handicap match. The guy, one of the guy's shoulders were down.
Yeah, but you had another guy, his shoulders not on the ground, not even on top of the other guy.
Well, you only have to
on
pin
top
one of them.
But he wasn't making physical contact with the other guy.
Well, that's a question for Jimmy Corderas.
Like if there, let's say there was a fly on top of a typical person's pinfall. Does the fly become the winner?
Well, was the fly in the match?
I guess technically not.
I was glad you analyzed this handicap match. Maybe we'll get a rematch.
Something seemed a little off to me.
So Strowman takes the mic. He says he doesn't care how many are sent. They will all be a pile of bodies at the end of this, and he wants better competition from Mick Foley next week.
I think they've done a good job with Braun with all these jobber matches, and I think he's shown that he's ready for a bigger program. I mean, when you think about it, was Paul White the Big Show any better worse than this guy when he was headlining shows with Hogan?
Was King Kong Bundy?
No, the Big Show.
Oh, the Big Show. I'm sorry. Big Show.
Yeah, as long as you protect the guy, you could make a decent main event, I guess, by 96 standards.
This is fine for where Braun is at this point. I mean, you can't go forever with this guy. There'll be an eventual time where you got to pull the trigger on him.
It certainly is a different time, though, right now, where I think work rate is much more important. With a capable worker, though, I think he can have a pretty good match.
Then we had... I recap Brian Kendrick and TJ Perkins. Not the most awkward conversation of the night. Okay. That went to two of our champions. I was so compelled that I decided to recap this verbatim. Sasha's standing there when Roman walks in. "What's up, boss? What is up? Heard you're making history again. How you feeling? You ready? Man, I was born ready. I can't let you guys have all the fun out there. Hell in a Cell is anything but fun. It is brutal. But let's not worry about that. Let's worry about tonight. Listen, I know what I'm getting myself into. I can handle Charlotte. You just handle Rusev." Roman grin. "Sasha, believe that."
I think you should do this for every backstage segment.
I've never seen two people have a more non-intimate conversation than these two humans reciting line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4, grin, use my catchphrase.
I mean, this is how they choose to produce their TV, man.
This I put more on the personalities involved.
Well, we've seen that, they do allow certain people to, I think, improvise, but they have to have an established track record of being able to do that. And a lot of these guys are relatively new. I mean, even Sasha and even Roman, who's been around for a long time, I don't think they trust with a unscripted thing.
Granted, if you are going by this, I mean, of what I just read, what can you really do with that? With this deep dialogue here. My goodness, this isn't exactly Aaron Sorkin here that they've got to work
Even
with.
if you had the best writers, I mean, you're talking about untrained actors here.
They should have done a walk and talk together backstage.
I don't think they'd be capable of that. That's kind of difficult.
That's more on the production end.
Yeah, they'd have to light the whole hallway.
The Royal Rumble stats video aired. For a second, I thought the Royal Rumble was this Sunday. Tickets go on sale Friday for San Antonio. I'm in a nitpicking mood.
Yeah, please.
Okay. This clearly, in here, they stated, it's been 20 years since the Royal Rumble invaded San Antonio. Now, if they said the Alamo Dome, cool. But the Royal Rumble was there 2007 in San Antonio.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, come on.
Jeez.
That's just a simple wording. Just say the Alamo Dome.
That's why we have you, man. Simple fact check.
Come on. Roman Reigns and Sasha.
That's not a nitpick at all.
Well,
I think that's an actual fact check.
Roman Reigns and Sasha Banks took on Rusev and Charlotte. Charlotte tagged herself in. Rusev tagged himself in. Of course, it was only Charlotte could be in with Sasha, and same with Reigns and Rusev. Crowd was continually chanting for Sasha while Reigns was in there. He went for a Superman punch, and Charlotte grabbed his boot from the floor, and Sasha dropped her on the ground. After the break, Banks got the hot tag after the long heat spot on Reigns, hit the double knees in the air, double knees in the corner, then off the turnbuckle, and Charlotte snapped her off the ropes into a roll-up. Sasha then turned it into the Banks statement as Reigns speared Rusev, and Charlotte tapped out. I like the finishing sequence, especially with the spear to take out Rusev.
I did too.
Good finish.
Yeah, I think they're doing a very good job here of pushing Sasha as the main face of that women's division, which it seems like was their entire intent, dating back to Sasha's first title win, was to kind of push Sasha as that face. And in the process, she even managed to help Roman get cheered this week. So, yeah, it was good.
Tom Phillips is with Owens and Jericho in the locker room as Owens says, "I can sense a stupid question coming." And he asks his question, which Jericho points out wasn't even a question. Owens says that he'll leave Hell in a Cell with the title no matter what. And Jericho says if one of them is the champion, both of them are the champion. And when the explanation is given for Owens watching as Rollins pedigreed Jericho last week, he says sometimes one member of the team has to take a bullet. And Jericho had to do that last week, but they're both the champion. And then Jericho adds Tom to the list.
I like how they're showing that Owens and Jericho are on the same page for now. It establishes kind of the trust that the two have, and I think it'll make it that much more effective when Owens finally turns. It'll make it seem more sudden.
When Jericho adds Owens to that list.
Big moment.
It's just going to be monstrous.
Yep.
Bray Wyatt and Kane will take on Bray Wyatt and Luke Harper on SmackDown Tuesday night. The countdown is on. Let's see what Raw is going to come up with for next week.
Hey, why don't they sell Jericho notepads?
They probably could.
Yeah.
With a pen.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Heyman's in the ring and throws to a 2K17 clip of a Lesnar-Goldberg match. And he comes back and he says, people have been asking what if about Goldberg for 12 years. Every time a new guy comes around, he's on a roll, we hear Goldberg chants. And for the first time in 12 years, the WWE encouraged Goldberg chants in the arena. And Oakland starts chanting. Heyman says that Goldberg's career was running parallel to Lesnar's, and it keeps him up at night that Goldberg is 1-0 against Brock. And he is here to pass along a message to Goldberg that he has been challenged to a fight for a match anywhere, any place, anytime with Brock Lesnar. And that Goldberg can either live in the fantasy world of a video game or he can show up and get conquered. And that Goldberg is the only blemish on Lesnar's WWE career, which is some new statistical analysis of Brock Lesnar's history, and says, you're not Goldberg, you're next.
I don't know how their careers ran parallel to one another's either.
I mean, Goldberg was there a year.
I guess career in general, wouldn't you say? Like Goldberg had a...
Well, there are comparisons to them. I mean, Lesnar got those Goldberg chants early on.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I was just thinking more about timing.
Oh, right.
But,
yeah.
I guess that makes sense from what you're saying. I like the slow burn here with the build. Goldberg has said he'll be back. He'll be on Raw next week.
He'll be on Raw next week.
And I think starting the angle on ESPN automatically gives it, makes it seem a bit more mainstream. So this, I think, has the potential to be a really big match.
So that is next week. So that'll be a big thing on Raw for next week. And then we got a Emelina video. If you can't get enough of Wai Ting and myself, be sure to tune in each Wednesday afternoon at liveaudiowrestling.com for Review of SmackDown as Wai and I go through all of the events from the WWE SmackDown program. TJ Perkins took on Arya Davari with Brian Kendrick on commentary. They got 5 minutes and 14 seconds here. This featured Davari on offense for quite a bit of the match. We also heard Kendrick continually going over his motivations. His gimmick is essentially he's scared of getting fired, and he wants to provide for his family.
Yeah, which is, I think, worked really well for him on the Cruiserweight Classic as a babyface. As a heel,
a little tougher to feel bad for this guy.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I also noticed on this, it's very tough for these guys on commentary, especially when it's the four of them.
Yep.
Because when Michael Cole has something to call in the ring, he just cuts the guy off. And it happened to Kendrick continually in this.
As he should.
Yeah, it makes it very hard. I just felt it totally ruined any flow Kendrick had, who's not a naturally great speaker, much less someone doing commentary.
I think he is, actually. I think he's proven to be really good.
I just thought every time he got anything where he was trying to give this backstory that we haven't heard on the main roster.
It's the wrong setting.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. It would come off much better in those sit-down kind of segments.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, this match, it featured Perkins hitting a Benadryller on Davari, and then he came back with a rolling elbow after blocking a sunset flip off the turnbuckle. Davari missed a splash coming off the top, took the wrecking ball drop kick, and then into the knee bar, and Perkins got the tap. 5:14.
I thought Oakland, right?
Yes.
I thought they were much more receptive to Perkins than many other towns, and it's a combination of, I think, longer exposure plus, I mean, being in California, I'm sure helped. You could tell the knee bar is starting to get over with the audience here. Davari, I'm glad he got signed, but I think to see this type of gimmick in 2016, it's hard not to laugh at how cliched it is. You know, just the guy in the turban speaking a foreign language. Let's boo him.
Yes, he did get an insert promo ahead of time, which did not have subtitles. And Jericho is in the back, walks into Stephanie, and Stephanie says she is rooting for Jericho, and says he did consider putting Stephanie's name on the list, but he removed it. Stephanie says a win for Jericho is a win for Raw tonight because she wants Hell in a Cell to be better than the No Mercy triple threat match. And says when the match comes, if they are as good friends as they are, you'll know what to do. Which I didn't know what that meant. And then Owens walks up, and he asks, what was that about? And Jericho just says, friendship. You know what this meant. This seemed that it was too subtle. Hispanic Heritage Month way. We've only got another week here. And we got a feature on Tito Santana, and then the announcement of Bill Goldberg, who will be in Denver next week. The best part of this was Michael Cole plugging next week's Raw, saying, Denver is always a great host, which, if you recall, that was the infamous week where Raw got bumped from Denver for an NBA playoff game. So we got an entire episode of Raw of Vince McMahon pissed off at Stan Kroenke and bashing the Denver owner for a whole episode of Raw. So there was 1 week they did not feel they were a great host. Main event time. Seth Rollins against Chris Jericho. They got a lot of time. This thing went just over 19 minutes. Rollins was in control early, and then Owens came out. They went through the commercial break after Jericho dropped Rollins ribs first on top of the top rope, and then all of his offense was around the ribs of Rollins, which was very good. Abdominal stretch. Rollins did a lot of stuff in here. Springboards. He blocked a code breaker, hit a kick to the face, landed a high knee. Owens was trying to distract, and Rollins knocked him off the apron. Rollins later had both of them on the floor, and he took out Owens with this crazy suicide dive, and then hit a springboard knee into the ring and tumbled on top of Jericho upon landing. Missed a frog splash off the top, which led to Jericho hitting the lion salt, which I just thought that would have been a great finish with the frog splash and lion salt with the rib story. But he kicked out. Rollins then caught him off the top with a kick to the gut. The pedigree gets blocked into the walls, then a small package, and Rollins pins him with the counter just after the 19-minute mark. And immediately after the match, Owens attacks Rollins. He's yelling that it's his title, avoids the pop-up powerbomb, and then he goes for the pedigree, but Jericho jumps Rollins. Owens bails to the floor as Rollins makes his comeback, and in a replay from last week, he pedigrees Jericho as Kevin Owens watches on. I thought a great touch, and I like the fact that this is a singles match at Hell in a Cell, and you can keep Owens and Jericho, hopefully, for the next month.
Well, you see the reaction Jericho had in this match. I feel like him not being in that triple threat is healthier for Seth Rollins, because if he was in there, I think Jericho would be certainly the fan favorite to win over Seth Rollins. So, if their intent in this match was to gauge how ready Jericho is for a babyface turn, I think the response he had here has shown that he will make a tremendous babyface against Kevin Owens. I thought the match was great. I thought they told a great story, taking advantage of Seth Rollins' rib injury. And it just so happens that all of Jericho's big impact moves, like the code breaker, like the lion salt, all happen to target the chest area. So I thought they used all those tools wonderfully.
Yeah, this was a great match that these two had. I really enjoyed just how they worked everything around the ribs. And again, when you look at the fact that if you had the three-way with these guys in a Hell in a Cell, the focus would be all divided. I just think it would have been such a misstep to put these three all together. So I really like the idea. And they're putting everything in motion for that Jericho turn. I just think it's the best thing going in WWE at the moment is Owens and Jericho and building to that eventual split. So that was Raw from Monday night in Oakland, California. Next week, Bill Goldberg will be on the show, and you and I will be back on Wednesday with review of SmackDown, and on Friday. And what are we reviewing?
Friday, we're taking a look at In Your House Mind Games, featuring a classic match between Shawn Michaels and Mankind, Mick Foley. And it's about the 20th anniversary of that show.
And for the televised version of Review of Raw, we are going to be on hiatus for the next 3 weeks. We will be back on November the 7th. That's a long time.
It's the playoffs, man.
Yeah.
It's the off season.
Wai is going on a world tour, but he will be back. We will still have the podcast version, but video will be back next month.
Keep up with the show at liveaudiowrestling.com in audio format as well as on iTunes.
All right, and that's going to wrap it up for us. Go Jays.